Good evening. This is Destiny. I am going to get this video through. I have been working on this video for the last 4 hours. It's like all kinds of little hiccups and things kept messing with me. It didn't want me to do this video. But you know me, I'm not a quitter. I tried and I've been trying. So you know what? I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna step out there and whatever comes, it comes. Whatever be, whatever may happen, whatever. But I'm believing, I know it's gonna be its best, okay? Because too much has gone on. Now I'm just gonna stop jibbing and jabbing and all. I'm just gonna get this done. Get this really done. I want to share the video with you today. Now it may be a little lengthy because this was something. It's a lot. It's a really huge subject, and a lot of people talk about the dark night of the soul, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Now the dark night of the soul, I call it the ego death. And this morning I had this deep revelation about the ego and the dark night of the soul, and I want to share that with you. You know, like I said, I want to share that with you. And I just want to welcome everyone here today. Thank you for joining and coming into the room with Destiny today. And I hope you listen through the whole video. And at the end, like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment, leave comments. If you got questions, leave your questions in the comment box below, and I will get back with your answers as best I know how. And just mostly comment. Let me know if you liked the video and what did you get out of it and what did you take away from it. You'll see me looking over to my right because I have notes here. And these notes are just some very important points and factors that I want to make sure that I did not miss just talking, talking out on my own. So anyway, the dark night of the soul. Let me read you a quote by Khalil Gibran. It said, "Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars." Wow, and I thought that was deep. Although we are born with souls, not all of us know how to fully embody them and integrate them into our human experience. The truth is that in our modern world, we live egocentrically rather than soul-centrically. Now, this is my revelation. I believe there's two entities in our body. And our lower density, that's where our ego lives. From our heart to our throat, our pineal gland to our crown chakra, I believe that's where our soul lives, in the higher density. The lower density down here, the root, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus, that's all part of the ego. And that's where the ego inhabits that part of us. And I believe that the ego lies there because that's the darkness. And that's why it's the dark night of the soul. That's the darkness. But like I said, we have to climb from the root, which is the root chakra. That's where the Kundalini lies, in that root chakra. And as we grow into our higher self, and we grow into light and become that spiritual being, that Kundalini begins to move from the root, goes like a snake right straight through our bodies, and it reaches up to the crown of our higher density of our being. But knowing that the ego is in that stage down there where it's the darkness of the womb, and the soul chakra is the light. That's the light. That's when we begin to see. That's when we get our spiritual awakening. We really become awakened, the knowing of our being and who we are and our purposes, and we in our greater and better version of ourselves, and we at our higher frequency. And I believe that ego soul lies there and the woman's womb. And when that baby or when that embryo is conceived into that womb, that ego is there and it grabs it from that day one that seed is put into that woman's body. And that ego immediately began programming. It began putting labels. It began speaking into that fetus mind, and beginning to map out this whole entire life from day one. And the soul is sitting up at the top, and all it's saying, live, and birth yourself out of here. Live and birth yourself out of here. But that fetus, that baby goes through that stage for 9 months, and all that 9 months they really programmed because the ego is turning them upside down, putting things into his mind, figuring out his plans, setting his future, his life, his goals, his dreams. And child is just actually programmed before it come out, and it's all in darkness, and it cannot see anything, and it does not know only but the voice that it hears, and the only voice that it's really hearing is the ego soul talking to it all the time, and the ego soul guiding them through that darkness. And that the moment when that child comes out, that's the first light that that child really sees. Now see, the soul wanted that child to be birthed into light, but the ego have it wrapped up in so much of what this ego wants. And the ego always wants control. So that child is wrapped up in control, into anxiety, into fear, into depression, into all different kinds of labels that it has been set for its life. So when it comes out into life, it's like, I forgot where I'm here for. I don't remember anything. The only thing they can remember is what the ego has put in them for that 9 months they've been in the womb. So that's when we come out. The ego still wants to ride, wants to control. See, when we were sitting here as spiritual beings, like I said, we are infinite beings having a human experience. And that's what the soul wants us to come on, move, live, wake up, grow. You have to leave your lower density. You have to leave your lower self, and you have to move on into the higher density and level of consciousness, so you can connect with your divine self, your true divine self. You're not what the ego say you are. You're not who the ego has programmed you to be. You cannot, you don't have to be that. But that's all that we know, and we have to wake up. Wake up. We have to wake up into our fully spiritual being. Now, mystics and saints and shamans throughout the history have referred to our struggle as humans in different ways. But they all pointed to the need for us to consciously grow into our divine potential. And that is what the soul always wanted us to grow, live, move. You can't stay there. Come out, wake up. And it's constantly trying to wake us up so we can move through that spiritual awakening, and we can move away from that lower density, the 3D dimension, so we can go on into our higher divine self. But there was one person that I have studied, and his name was Saint John of the Cross. He was a Spanish monk, and he coined the term, the dark night of the soul. And this is a poem that he wrote, and it was about his pains and his agony, and his troubles and his trials and his hurts and everything that he had gone through, and all his mystical experiences. And it was like he was in a dark, dark place. So it was like this dark, dark place that St. John of the Cross was talking about. It was like a journey, to a spiritual journey that he had to move through so he would become fully conscious of his divine potential or his divine self. But these days, the concept of the dark night soul has come to be used in a much broader sense. And what was once termed and reserved for people as actually going through a spiritual journey. Now, people today may call it a spiritual journey, but the terms, the way they use it, is so far different from what that it was labeled in the beginning. And now that label has been so easily changed. Like every time somebody goes through a bad day, oh, it's a dark night of the soul. Or if somebody breaks up to you and you're hurting, oh, it's the dark night of the soul. Or your friends walk away from you and now you feel like you're all out there by yourself and all alone. Oh, it's the dark night of the soul. So casually, everything, it's a dark night of the soul. And even like I said, you go through a period of depression, it's a dark night of the soul, or even to the point of losing loved ones. Everything you want to turn it around and say it's a dark night of the soul, but I don't actually believe it's a dark night of the soul. My revelation that I received this morning, the dark night of the soul, yes, it lies within us, and it's the lower part of our conscious self. But that dark night of the soul, I believe that it brings on the onset of depression, frustration, anxiety, and all those different things, It causes us, it brings on that onset. And I think the two can be separated. And a lot of people say, well, the depression and the dark night of the soul is all tied. Well, it's all one thing, but I don't believe it's all one thing. I think it's the dark night of the soul. It's the dark night of the soul, but it's onset through all the programming, through all the labeling, through all the things that the dark night of the soul has started programming the infant, the fetus within the womb from day one. So, without all that being said, I'm looking at my notes now, so don't worry about it. Like I said, keep focused on the page. I just want to make sure I will get all my notes in. So what really is the dark night of the soul? Let me give you a definition that I like. The dark night of the soul is a period of utter spiritual desolation, disconnection, and emptiness in which one feels totally separated from the divine. Those who experience the dark nights feel completely lost. They feel totally hopeless and consumed with melancholy. They are really sad, pressed down hard. And the dark night of the soul can be likened to a severe spiritual depression. But like I said, I believe that the dark night on the soul, it onsets that depression that comes in. And I truly believe that the dark night of the soul, like I said in my last video I did on depression, and I was talking to you about depression, that I had been plagued with depression ever since I was a teenager, in my teen years. And as I'm looking at it and been studying more and more, and watching other videos and listening to my gut intuition, talking like this morning, my gut intuition gave me this intuitive revelation. And I'm like, okay, so I believe it can be separated. I believe that we are born into this world in the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is always there, always have been there, always will be there. When we come into this womb of our mother, we come into that dark night. We don't come in with depression. We don't come in with anxiety. We don't come in with frustration. We don't come in with abuse, hatred, pain, suffering, and all that. All of that is a programming caused by your ego, which I said, the ego. And that's the part of us that it's been controlled during the whole 9 months of us being in our mother's womb. So I believe that that ego, and I call it the ego death, that most people, they call it the dark night of the soul, but I basically like to address this as the ego death, because that's a part of us that it has to die. It has to die for us to live. If it does not die, we'll never have life. And that's why the soul is constantly telling us, come up higher, live, live. I see you moving. I see you in your blood, but you have to live. Get past all of this, because everything that ego has programmed us as, or has labeled us as, or has spoken into our lives, it's not us. We allow ourselves to feed into it, to lay into it, to live into it, and attach it to ourselves. Instead of us saying, as the biblical cord was cut when we came out of our mother's womb, we didn't cut it. We came out with it. We came out with it, and we stayed with it, and we lived with it, and we walked with it. We did everything we could because it was controlling us in every direction, in every place, in everything in our life. It already had set up every channel in our life, and we had everybody tuning in with their different channels, telling us, do this and do that, and you need to go here, you need to be here, and this is you, and that is you, and this is who you are, and this is who you were created to be. All that's a bunch of lies. I'm just going to tell you, it's the ego. That's why I say the ego death. We got to kill it, because it is constantly trying to control our lives, to keep us separated from our higher conscious, the soul part of us. It does not want us to know who we are. It does not want us to come into our divine creation of our being, of our higher consciousness. It doesn't want us to know that. So that part of us, it has to die. So you may be asking, well, what's the difference between the dark night of the soul and depression? Okay, well, even back in the 16th century, St. John of the Cross himself, like I said, he was experiencing some really great pain, and he was going through a whole dark moments of depression. Well, he called it depression and pains, but distinguishing dark night of the soul from having mere depression, I think it can be distinguished. After all, the symptoms of the dark night of the soul are not that different, though, from depression. It may seem a whole lot like depression, but it has its takes. It has its different categories that it comes in with. But like I said, I go back to my life, like I said, I've been through a lot of things I have gone through, and like I said, I've been through depressions, but I don't think that depression just crept up on me. Even when I talked about me being through depression through my teen years. I mean, not like something that you just stay in every single day of your life. You might go through depression maybe a couple of weeks or a month or so, but you seem like you go back to yourself and everything seems to be okay for a while. But like I said, that's things in you that you have to address and acknowledge that whatever the feeling is and whatever that comes into you, it does not give you the label to be classified as that, because that's not you. And I think the ego, like I said, that ego, that dark night of soul, it lays there and it knows everything about you. So when you come out into the world, begin to live your life, it already got all these labels and things, and okay, I know what they like and I know what they don't like, and I know how to turn up the buttons, I know how to turn the panic buttons on, I know how to do it all. So they already knew that my passion one day, when I'm growing up, I was gonna love children. That was my heart passion and my dreams and my desire was children. So they took the hardest thing and took it and turned it around. The hardest thing for me to deal with was to not to be able to have children, and they used it against me, so I would not have children as I wanted. I had to go through pew hell. I'm just say it like that. Pew hell. Pew hell. I got married, and during the 7 years of my marriage, I went through 9 miscarriages. I couldn't have children. That was hurtful, because that was painful. And me and my husband, we wanted children. I love children. I wanted children in my life. So they used that against me. Okay, if I take away her ability to have children, then I can onset that depression. I can onset that anxiety. I can onset that blame game. Something's wrong with me, it's why I can't have children, and all this kind of stuff. And it took me 7 years. I went through that, trying to have children. And they used that. That's when, going through all of that, from the dark night of the soul, the ego, that triggered, that onset, the depression that crept into my life. Other things that had happened was, I was a good wife. I mean, I thought I was a great wife, and loved, passionately gave my heart and everything, and went through 2 terrible, horrible marriages, and then through later divorce. Broken me, hurt me. And there's another thing, dark night of the soul. Triggers, it onset the depression, and I went through depression, through a lot of that. So, like I said, go through it and you go on out of it. And it's different things that you have to face, and like I said, if you don't grow and know your conscious divine self, then you will never know how to deal with a lot of the onsets that is triggered by the dark soul or the ego mind or the ego soul. You won't even know how to deal with it, because the conscious, your soul, your highest consciousness keep telling you, want you to live, you want you to wake up, and you gotta know that there's an enemy, which is the dark night of the soul, that ego. It wants to kill you, it wants to control you. If it can't control you, it wants to kill you. Well, I went through a lot, but like I said, I could see now all of that was a part of the dark night of the soul, the ego trying to destroy me. Anyway, it's a lot goes on. They say your life goes on. You move in and out of different phases of things in life, different hurts and different pains and different trials, different things. You just move on. And you learn how to conquer it, because you're never really going to learn how to live with it, because they're always going to come back and they're always going to defeat you at some point until you learn how to conquer it. Like I said, you got to let yourself know that, hey, you don't live here. You can't control me. I know who I am now. I am my divine self. I'm moving into a higher density of frequency, of vibration, of my greater divine self. And I am moving into my God consciousness. And you got to let an ego, you can't live there. You got to cut the biblical cord. Got to let it go. In 2014, that's when I began my spiritual awakening, really. My spiritual awakening. Ego had controlled me all my entire life. And I think one of the biggest onsets of that was when I had raised my kids, my children, by myself almost all my life. I said 2 marriages, broke up, no husband in the house, it was just me and my children. And we were very, very close, and I was with my kids most all the time. And having them around my life, and when they just suddenly began to grow up and chose their own paths in life, which I'm so happy and thankful that they made their choices. I'm proud of them for their choices they made in their lives. But I missed them when they left home. And so You know, I moved out of the house that we lived in, where they grew up in, and I moved into a apartment by myself. And that was the first time me being alone in over 25 years. That was, and I didn't know how to deal with me. I didn't know who I was because I never lived me. I lived for everything and everybody else. I always lived for my children. I did everything that I thought I needed to do that will please people, take care of people, take care of my children. So I found myself alone. And I think that being alone, we call the empty nest syndrome. Ooh, that came up on me so hard. And I think that ego pushed that up. That was one of his family weapons that I can use that against him because he's trying to get away from me because I'm in my spiritual process awakening now. And once you start going that spiritual journey, that soul now is taking more dominant control, and the ego is feeling itself dying. And the ego don't want to die. It don't want to give up that control. It don't want to give up that power they had of you all those years. And your soul now is saying, you're living, you're coming to life, you're awakening. And all of a sudden, everything inside of you is just coming alive. Everything that you did not know, everything that people told you about yourself didn't make no sense. Now you're getting to see, hey, there's something more to my life. There's something more to me. And there's something better about me. And there's a better me. There's a better and a greater me than I was ever told. And so the ego had to take its last stab at me. And I went into a depression, like I told you. That was 2015. Right after my spiritual awakening, you know, I'm learning things. I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about a lot of things now. Like I spoke in my last video, you know, a lot of things that I was taught in Christianity and religion, things that my parent had taught me, my teachers, my peers, my mentors, and all the things that I had been taught was lessons that was thrown into them to give to me from my ego. My ego had set them up. The government systems, the world systems, and all those things was patterns and labels, and all that was given to the people that will be in my life, that will come into my life, that will speak back into me the words that the ego had given them to speak to me. Woo. And that was hard. Like I said, that's when I went into a really deep depression, because I said that depression was onset from the ego soul. And I told you about that in the last video. You know, it's like I said, the days I didn't even care. I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to get up. There was never a point in my life I would get depressed, but never the point where I wanted to die. Actually, I wanted to just drug myself. And I would. Every night I would come home, that when I felt that really strong depression, I would take a handful of sleeping pills. I don't know how much, drugs, medicine, cough medicines, and I would pour down with it, not thinking that this could possibly really take me out of here, kill me. All I want to do was stop the pain. I want to sleep. I didn't want to hurt. And I went through that probably for maybe a month or so. And like I said, you know, that was the toughest bout that I had to deal with, and that really hurt me really a lot. That was during the 2015. Now I'm coming into my spiritual awakening. I'm learning more about me, about my life, about who I am, learning about the spiritual journey, learning about the universe, my divine self, my divine consciousness, my God consciousness, my divine creator. And I'm learning my life. I'm learning there's another whole life of me that nobody never told me about. There's another whole part of me that nobody ever discussed with me. There's another whole part of me that Christianity never told me truths about. They only told me what they were taught through that ego system. Oh, but like I said, you know, I got through the bad part. One day I said, you know, I got up there so high on sleeping pills one night and drinking all that cough medicine, trying to put myself to sleep. And the next day when I got up, you know, I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, I'm back to myself and feeling great. It's just like a tall wall just wham, something just yanked down on me. That was that was a feeling that it scared the life out of me, really. And I didn't like it. It was just a ceiling. It was like boom. It dropped so hard. I didn't like that feeling. That moment, I decided I can't do that no more. That's the moment I decided that I'm not taking no more sleeping pills, and I'm not taking no more of this cough medicines to go to sleep at night. That's when I began to turn away from taking pharmacy drugs and medicines, and I just let that stuff go. Now that was 2018. So never had dealt with anything like that. After that moment, I just went on with my life. Like I said, you know, depression shows up, anxiety shows up, worries will show up, frustration will show up. But I was growing now into a better version, a stronger person, and I was growing into a higher level of who I was, and every day now I'm cutting that ego. I'm cutting that ego. I'm cutting that cord that had wrapped around me. So I'm getting more and more in control and knowing who I am. And I'm getting more and more in control of my life. So I'm doing good now, moving all about. So that's what I learned about the ego. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. But let me tell you about 7 signs that you might be going through a dark night of the soul. And this is something you might want to listen carefully to. Number 1, let me say it again. Here are 7 signs that you might be going through a dark night of the soul. Number 1, you feel a deep sense of sadness, which often verges on despair. And this sadness is often triggered by the state of your life, humanity, and or the world as a whole. Been there. How many else been there? Number 2, you feel an acute sense of unworthiness. You just don't feel like you're valuable, like you're worth nothing. You feel bad about yourself, the way you look, the way you, anything about yourself, you just feel unworthy. It's not worthy. You're not deserving of anything. I can relate to that. How many of you out there can relate to that? Number 3, you have the constant feeling of being lost or condemned to a life of suffering, emptiness. And I just told you, yes, that empty home syndrome, that emptiness syndrome back in the latter part about December 2014.